Welcome to the Krempels Brain Injury Foundation's Oral History Project. Every year, brain injury from trauma, stroke, or tumor strikes more than 4,000 people of all ages in New Hampshire. Many of them are your neighbors, your friends, your family. It is the goal of this project to increase awareness relating to this unique population that often goes unseen and unheard. The interviews are recorded at SteppingStones, a community-based post-rehabilitative program located at the Foundation for Seacoast Health's community campus in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. SteppingStones provides opportunities for social interaction, life skill training, recreation, and support for brain injury survivors who are now living in the community. All of the interviews are conducted by brain trauma survivors. Please enjoy.
Hi, I'm Russ Moore, and I'm a SteppingStones member, and I'm interviewing Nikki Butterfield, a SteppingStones member. Can you briefly describe your life before your brain injury?
Actually, I had almost 6 decades of life before my brain injury. I was not a privileged, but a comfortable child and adolescent. I lived back and forth between the United States and Great Britain, both as a child and as a woman in my 20s working. I actually used to have a brain. I was a college graduate. I was accepted into Wellesley and Radcliffe and ended up going to a college in the southern United States so that I could be pretty far away from my mother. But I had a double major in microsociology and in American studies with an emphasis on the Gilded Age. My minors were elementary special ed and small museum management. I married in my 30s to a marvelous man. We have been registered agriculturalists in New Hampshire for 30 years. We have 2 daughters that never went to school, but I was their facilitator. They were both all grown up and moved away to the Rocky Mountains when I had my brain injury. I had worked in the restaurant industry for 15 years, in both as a chef. Then when I found out that servers made more money, I did that, and then I was in management. We are also beekeepers, and I did work as an outreach educator in math, science, and technology for the University of New Hampshire. I was on the board of both Rockingham and Hillsborough County Extension Services. I've always been very active in my community. I am a person who has liked solitude, but also I have been a participant. I'm the 4th of 5 children, and that was my life before my brain injury. I was socially because I didn't marry until I was in my 30s, my husband and I both knew what it was like to have a life separate from each other. He never had a problem with the fact that most of my friends have been male. If I wanted to go out to dance or go to a bar with male friends, that was fine. He is not a dancer. I introduced the Macarena to the seacoast, and before my brain injury, I was user of tobacco. I smoked cigarettes. I did like scotch. Although I had it under control, I would have scotch on a daily basis because I liked the flavor. That part has changed. I do no longer use tobacco or have any alcohol. Is that it?
How long ago did your brain injury occur? Oops. Oh, can you describe your brain injury? How long ago did it occur?
My brain injury is complex only because I had a ruptured aneurysm, which is an explosion of a vein. Mine was an artery in what they called my brain stem, and I'm not sure exactly what that is, but they said that it wasn't discovered what the problem was initially because I was driving my car on a highway when the artery ruptured, and apparently I went to sleep when the artery ruptured and the car rolled. They figured that I stayed in the car five rolls before I left the car, not wearing a seatbelt, through the closed driver's window. And they said that actually that saved my life because with that particular aneurysm in that location, I had only a 5% chance of survival if I was found immediately after it happened. So if I had stayed at home, I would have been dead. But because people saw the car accident, I had immediate medical attention, and because both of my legs were destroyed, I was flown to Boston, and so what happened to me, I basically destroyed both of my legs. I have 2 new kneecaps. I have 2 new hips. I broke my neck in 2 places and my back in 2 places. And my arms didn't do well going out of the car the way that I did. So I don't have use of my arms the way I should. And where did it happen? A quarter of a mile from my home. I had been fighting a headache all morning, and it didn't occur to me to call anyone and say I have the worst headache of my life. If I had called, they would have known why I went off the road at first, but because I was so damaged from the car accident, they did not realize until I had been in hospital for a week that I had had an aneurysm, and it was when it started bleeding a second time that they figured out why I had gone off the road.
What has your rehabilitation experience been like? What types of therapies have you had?
I did not have any therapy to my knowledge while I was at the medical hospital, which was in Boston, except that my husband has told me that when I woke after sleeping for 4 months, I could not either speak nor understand people speaking to me, so somebody must have taught me to speak. Everybody says I sound exactly the way that I did before, but I'm slower. But once I they took a feeding tube out of my stomach, and I realized that I could never eat again, and I could not walk. Charlie had me transferred to some place called Dartmouth Hitchcock in New Hampshire, and they had a special hospital that all they did was teach you how to do things like that. And I had a team of people that taught me how to walk, taught me to use the toilet, taught me how to shower. They did practice speaking so that I could speak more clearly. I still am not very good at understanding, but I'm better than that. What was beneficial or not beneficial during therapy? They taught me how to use a walker. That was beneficial. Their playing games was sort of odd. It was more like taking up time. But I thought the most important part was learning to shower, learning to use a toilet. For me, a big part was learning that if I moved, an alarm would go off on the bed, because I kept forgetting that I could not try to sit up with my legs over the edge. I knew I could not walk, but I didn't always know that I couldn't do things. And so they had an alarm. What wasn't beneficial was they would tie my arms to the bed. That was awful. That was one of the things that you've heard me say before. The first thing that you learn when you learn that you have a broken brain is that you no longer have dignity or any reason that anybody should treat you with dignity again. And it was my family treated me with dignity because they were my family, but it wasn't until SteppingStones that I learned I was not brain dead. I was brain damaged. I kept saying, I am brain dead. And so that's my rehab. I did, when I got allowed out of the hospital, I did have visiting nurses that came and gave me exercises. So I got better.
What changes have occurred since your injury, such as physical?
Changes. I used to be a very physical person. I used to walk 8 miles a day. I have a dog that needs the exercise. I now, in the time that I would walk 5 miles, I can walk 1 mile, but I can walk 1 mile now. I have lost all independence. Whenever I do anything, whenever I change location, I have to tell somebody. I've gotten through SteppingStones. I now can use my arms a lot more than I could before. But I get tired very easily. I can't fit as much in. I used to work at the computer from about 6 in the morning until 11 at night, taking breaks. Now, since I started SteppingStones, I'm now able to turn on the computer and check my email. I used to be more able to figure out things than I am now. I no longer can drive, and I doubt that I will drive for a long time. What else was different? Emotionally, well, after I came home, I cried very easily. But now I'm drugged every day. And so I still will cry, but I don't cry at everything. I used to be much more hopeful about the future. I have to admit, when I first awoke, I was angry. I was so angry that my living will was not respected, that I was kept alive. I was destroyed financially. I destroyed my husband financially. He says that it was a conscious decision, that he was happy to give up the house, the farm, the stuff. But that has changed. I don't speak easily to people that I don't know, that are not safe. SteppingStones has been a safe place. It has, and so it's given me more confidence. Since SteppingStones, the thing that had kept me from finishing the job that the aneurysm had started was that I'm Catholic, and Catholics cannot take their own lives. But since I've been at SteppingStones, it's been more than my Catholicism that has said, okay, maybe there is something in the future. But the future is unsure. I really don't know what it's going to be. And I do have the curse of being from a family that lives into their 90s. So I think I used to be a lot rosier, a lot more of a Pollyanna sort. I did not ski this last year because I was learning to walk. I'm now walking. That has changed, so I'm back to that. I've been told that I can learn to ski again next year. I think it has been confusing having been in an automobile accident as well as the aneurysm, not knowing physically what would be so different. I think a lot of the worst part has been the result of the car injuries. That, because I do have my long-term memory, and I was told by SteppingStones, and it might just be they're pacifying me, but it might be very true, that I was clever enough before that if my intelligence had dropped 30 to 40 points, I would still be normal because I was clever. Or so I've been told I was. I think one of my difficulties with all of this has been that I started life as someone without hearing. And so it has returned to me what it was like to be considered what after the war was called retarded. And I just realized this isn't the last question. Okay.
Since your injury, how has your life been socially?
Socially, well, I no longer go to bars and shoot pool and have a drink and get silly. My social life has changed completely. However, I have had my family's support, and I've had some very good friends that I had a lot of townspeople who said, I'm there for you, and were there for my family. But I've had a few good friends who have literally said, you've got to get out of the house and come and taken me out. And SteppingStones has become a social, it's something that I look forward to because that's where my main interaction is. That the people at SteppingStones have been good enough to be able to say enough or keep going or whatever. So that's been good.
What has been the biggest communication challenge that you've experienced?
Biggest communication challenge has been being able to form thoughts. I still can get very confused if I have too many thoughts coming at me at one time, or if I start getting excited about something that is more complex. But the biggest problem with my communication is incoming. And if I can go back with additional probes about my injury, I know, as far as religion is concerned, I have had people ask, am I born again? I am not, but I have always been a person who had an internalized spirituality. And as far as spirituality or religion is concerned, I just had things confirmed. And I did have difficulty at the beginning because my spirituality is different from that of my mother. And I started thinking at first that her spirituality maybe was the right one and mine was the wrong, that I was an evil person who was being smitten by the hand of God. And so I have had confirmed to me by my spiritual advisor, who has been very helpful throughout, that my God does not punish people that way, that I am not evil, and that there is a plan. So I just needed to say that.
What are some of the goals that you have for yourself at this point in your life?
I am going to have the time and the temperament to be able to do things that I was probably too high-strung for before. I have, through SteppingStones, through David and Lisa, I have been reintroduced to reading, which was always important to me, but I have gotten to be a reader again, and I'm enjoying it. I will now go through about 3 books a week, which is pretty good. I had always said Charlie and I, as old people, were going to be hand in hand climbing mountains and skiing. I'm not sure if we will be climbing the highest peaks or skiing Tuckerman's Ravine, but I do plan to be able to physically be more able. I'm going to enjoy things more. I'm going to appreciate them more, having lost things. I have learned to let go, which I never had before. Stuff has no importance anymore. I'm getting rid of everything. The government's going to own the farm. I don't need any of the stuff in the house. And we will probably move either to Great Britain or to the western part of the United States. I know that my children will always be part of what I am. So I want to be able to be accessible to them, but I don't have to have the community, and I don't have to have a place that was where they were babies anymore. So I am going to be like my father at 92, sharp. Hey, I have 1-year-old legs. It's better than 60-year-old legs. So I'm just not going to get old quite as... I'm not going to go softly into that good night.
How has SteppingStones made an impact on your life?
SteppingStones has given me a life. The medical people saved me medically, but SteppingStones has taught me how to live. That has been a major thing. It took me a couple of months of being here before I tried doing physical education classes. SteppingStones taught me how to climb stairs. But they basically accepted that I was human, that I had emotion. I think that my family had been so protective, and they were good to me, but there was always the question, well, they love me. Families do that. They would never tell me, boy, you were wretched. I'm now learning that Charlie will tell me that. But they saw me at my worst. I did not see me at my worst because I was asleep. And I know that other people would either react, oh, you poor thing, you're brain dead, or they would be like, some of the people would say, oh, for Pete's sake, you're not brain injured. There's no way that you could be brain injured because brain injured people drool from mouths hanging open and they just sit with blank looks. Brain injured people can't be brain injured the way that you and I are.
What does being brain injured mean to you?
Brain injured now means to me that I operate with different capabilities, but I'm still human. And that is something since Stepping Stones started, because I will be the first to admit, every time that I would talk about what happened to me, I was like all those other people that said, oh, I'm brain dead now. And my family would say, you're not brain dead, you're brain bruised. And so I am badly bruised, but I am hoping that it means that the bruising will go away. I don't know, but it's a hope.
What would you want to share with the public to educate them about brain injury?
First of all, my biggest is, if you've got the worst headache of your life, tell somebody. Don't assume anything. I've learned now the third leading cause of death in the United States is headaches, which nobody told me that. I wish that I had known that. Also, I have been a great one for speaking out and saying there is no reason in the 21st century for anyone to live through what I did, because now medicine has learned how to tell if a newborn baby has any aneurysms. Nobody told me that. I watched my mother's sister, all kinds of people in my mother's family died of aneurysms. Nobody said, oh, gee, 11 people in your mother's generation died of aneurysms. You have a good chance of having one. You would think that somebody would have said it, but nobody said it to me. So now I tell people, if you had someone in your family who died of an aneurysm, you can be tested to see if it could happen to you. The other thing is that everybody told me from the time that I was 14 all the way through life, oh, you shouldn't smoke cigarettes. That'll kill you. Well, the reality is, maybe it will, maybe it won't. You're lucky if it kills you. Smoking cigarettes can irritate aneurysms. It can irritate strokes. It can irritate things that, okay, you might, between the ages of 55 and 75, have that happen to you. It can make it happen when you're at 55 instead of waiting till you're 75. So that is a big thing. And the other thing is to know that the reason that they don't write big books on this is exactly what your brain injury will do is that every brain injury is different. That for some people it is going to kill them, and for some people you can't tell if they're a college professor or a brain injury student at SteppingStones. I think that's a good thing about SteppingStones is that it has taught me that there is a wide range. And I wish that medical people could learn more about the emotional aspect, because that, I think that they should be able to do more than just make you not dead. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to add?
I'm glad that there was a guy named Russ at the front desk when I came in. I think, truthfully, that you have given me an understanding that in time, if I try, that I have a measure of control. And if I believe in myself and I follow the things that are told to me by SteppingStones, I, like you, will know myself when I am ready to move forward. And I think that is an important thing to have experienced. You, and there are a couple of other people that if I hadn't had the personal contact, I wouldn't have believed that that day would ever come. I could be told, I mean, everybody can tell you, oh, someday you'll get better. You're not broken. You're not dead. You're bruised. It's one thing to be told that, and it's another thing to see people who have gone through the process and hear their stories and know, oh my goodness, that person was either near death or wishing he was. And that, I think SteppingStones is great for that, and it's a lesson I wouldn't have learned.
Thank you, Nikki and Russ.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed the preceding interview. The mission for the Krempels Brain Injury Foundation is improving the lives of people living with brain injury from trauma, tumor, or stroke. If you know of anyone who may need our assistance, please contact us. And if you would like to explore ways in which you can help us move forward with our mission, please contact us as well. Because brain injury from trauma, tumor, or stroke can happen to anyone at any time. It is a problem that is not going away.